Hello, everybody, and welcome to Athletic Definition. My name is Coach Razy, and today my guest is Megan. Megan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How
So,
are you?
I'm doing good. I have my St. Patrick's Day here in the United States celebration gear here, and this is actually your second time on here. You're my first female returning guest ever. And for those of you who have heard all of my 89 episodes, you're probably like, I've never heard this episode before. And that is because my audio really, really sucked. So I didn't release it as a podcast. So if you did want to hear it, the only place you could hear it is actually here on Fireside. But I thought, for the other listeners, good audio quality is a must, and so I had to have you back because you have a really good, life story that people should know, and I know that part of your goal is to inspire people, to reach their full potential. So I couldn't have bad audio quality. So I wanted to invite you back and thank you so much for coming back on the show.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you for the invite.
Oh, no problem. So, since they've done a lot of changes here on Fireside, as you could tell, I really like all the little changes, and thank you everybody in the audience as well. So, since most people, I'm going to say, have not heard that episode, I actually went back and I listened to it, and so I won't try and repeat everything we talked about the last time, but just for the new people, I do want to start a little bit. I know you grew up in Canada, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I grew up in Canada and then moved back to, well, I'm born in Hong Kong and then grew up in Canada for a couple of years and then went back to Hong Kong for high school. So, and then stayed here until now, more or less. But yeah, I went to my postgraduate studies in Europe. So that's kind of my where I am in different phases of my life.
And I know I always like to ask people, if they like to work out when they were young, and that wasn't something you really did. You really were kind of studious, and I do know that you like to participate, like in speaking. So, did you do like speech contests or anything like that?
Well, actually, growing up, I was really never athletic. Sure, I grew up in Canada where there's chances to do sports in school. But when I moved back to Hong Kong, and I think it's the Hong Kong education culture as well, or perhaps maybe the whole environment, which really made me, or that I have to somehow, well, put my head down, study, don't really have much time for any other things. So I I don't even like any sports or even running when I was in high school because I remember they wanted us to do these laps around the school for physical education class, and I hated those. Like every year, that's one of the things that I dreaded the most is to run laps around the school.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids don't like that, and I was kind of opposite. I disliked all studies except for the running part. That was like my thing that I enjoyed. Maybe the one thing that I was good at the time. Um,
I would say that I didn't really how do you say it enjoy studying so much, but I guess it's sort of like the expectations put on you that in order to kind of do well in life, especially the whole Asian upbringing is that in order to do well in life, go to school, do decently in it. I'm definitely not the top student, but at least I get okay grades and then get into university and then have a career. That's probably the very common trajectory of probably many Asian kids out there. So that's my experience. And yeah, you mentioned also about speaking and debating. I've done a lot of that, starting from high school until university. So that's really one of my main interests growing up.
and that's good because most people their number one fear is public speaking. I think it's one or two. So to have an interest and to be able to develop that, especially at a younger age, as you get older, there's so many things. And then you went on to become a lawyer. So speaking is definitely important in that type of field.
I would say yes and no because I am actually a qualified solicitor here in Hong Kong. So basically, solicitors are the lawyers that don't go to court. We basically work, in law firms, drafting documents and giving legal advice. So especially like back then I worked like in-house, so it's more like I'm serving the company as a legal advisor, so I don't really have as much chance to really speak. Actually, that's the ironic thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I guess I watch too much TV. I'm always expecting the lawyer to get up and saying, "I object."
a lot of people would have impressions of lawyers from television, but if we're not like the court going lawyers, then you don't really stand up in court, and actually people might not like just, oh, I object. There's yeah, it's a little bit different. Makes it much more glamorous.
Yes, yes. And last time we spoke, you know, Ho- Hong Kong was still locked down, and at least from what I see on the news now, it's.
We're
I
not
mean,
any better, unfortunately.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. How are things for you over there? And are you guys being locked down again?
Well, we're not like in a real lockdown, as in like we're still allowed to go out to like do whatever we want. However, like if you're dining in restaurants, for example, we only have lunch, well, morning to lunch service. So there's no dinner service. So like eating out for dinner is just not a thing anymore for like quite a while. And now I think for me, I feel like the worst part is that, when I have to go out for a run, like it's just running and I'm out in nature, not in crowds, I still have to wear a mask.
Oh, okay.
That's something a little bit, annoying, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that was very difficult for me too, especially if there was no one around. I'm like, I still have to wear a mask, and I read an article today saying that, I mean, the street looked empty from what I saw. I don't know, but that you guys are known for your night lights, and it was dark and the street looked pretty empty to me, and they were talking about locking everybody down, and
They
I
were. They
and
were talking about it, and still I think the government's like really trying to see how the situation is. So then there's still nothing concrete right now, and it actually caused like quite a bit of panic among like folks, because like around 2 weeks or something ago, I wasn't able to even find like food in the supermarket. Like shelves were literally empty, and there were also like problems for me to order groceries online, because some people get COVID and wasn't able to do delivery, so much less like delivery service, and everything's just kind of like chaotic, because the government was sort of like, oh, they wanted to do a mass lockdown or checking everyone whether they have COVID, but in the end it didn't happen, but people were just panicking.
so is it a food supply issue, or is it people panic buying
Panic.
all the?
It's more of a panic buying right now.
Hmm. Well, I really hope things get better in Hong Kong, and thank you for joining me so early. How did you know that we
Not
had
that
daylight
early.
savings? It's 10 in the morning, but you know, it's like you're in the future, because today is the 17th for me, and then it's the 18th Friday for you.
Yeah.
Um, how did you know we had daylight savings time? Or otherwise, I would have somehow messed this up again.
Oh, well, because obviously I do like talk with friends, all over the world. That's one of the things I really like about, well, trail running, is that you also meet like a lot of folks around the world, and knowing, where different people live. I am kind of aware of the time differences, and especially like right now, due to COVID and stuff, there's no traveling, so you just have to find time to actually interact with each other online. So yeah, that's how I try to make sure that we're on the right time.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know. I really appreciate that. I was like, oh, I got it this time from learning my lesson from last time, and then the whole daylight savings. It's messed me up. I'm not a fan of it. I believe they're finally going to take it away next year.
That's what
Oh,
I've heard. I think
yeah.
in Hong Kong we don't have any of this like daylight saving time, so it's more like yeah, I just have to make sure that, and it's really funny because in America and in Europe, they changed to daylight saving time like on a different date. So in Europe, they change it like end of March, and that's a little bit confusing as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad it's going to be over and it'll be the last year. And so from I already know, you went to law school and you practiced law for what, 10 years?
Yeah, around 10 years.
And
It's been a while.
yeah, on the previous episode, I mentioned you're my second guest who became a lawyer and walked away from it. And I know your parents were understanding; they really weren't pushing you to be a lawyer.
Yeah,
Um,
they
but
never really pushed me. I mean, I'm lucky in a sense that yes, I'm a kid of the Asian upbringing. Yes, my parents like would like for me to obviously live a good life. So perhaps maybe like law or something, it's one of them. But they never really pushed me that you have to be a lawyer, you have to be a doctor or whatever. Like parents usually have like some sort of expectations, but for me, I mean, I believe I'm quite goal oriented as well. So maybe growing up, I would have expectations on myself, what I would like to do, and as you said, as you thought when you watch like all these films, you think that lawyers are like speaking in court and stuff like that. Perhaps that's something that drawn me to study law as well. So
and
yeah.
and I know that wasn't fulfilling for you. You wanted more, and part of it was the first COVID? Because I know it has to do. Hold it, kind of going back. You got cancer twice,
Yes.
so you're a cancer thriver, survivor, and then I believe when you decided to walk away from being a lawyer was during the first round of the pandemic.
It's not the first round of pandemic. It's rather like, what happened was that I was diagnosed with cancer in 2019, and like obviously that's already like a huge blow to my life and everything. So 2019 and then 2020 rolled around with COVID, and then it's sort of like already I have more time at home back then. 2019 and then 2020, I had more time at home, more time to think, more time to reflect on what I really want in life. Because, cancer is like, yes, I mean, it's manageable by, medicine, yes, but at the same time, it really made me question about like, mortality, my life, like, am I really happy with my life at the moment? And I just felt like, well, no, I don't think I'm living to my fullest, potential, what I can offer, what I can serve to the world. So I think with both the cancer and the pandemic, it feels like, well, I really have to make a change in my life in order for me to, live authentically. So that's in 2020, I decided, well, like law is really not for me. Like I have to go in order for myself to feel that I am better. And like I don't know how whether you've actually heard that they say that maybe cancer or even disease is something that is caused because it's something that you feel it's imbalance, like is your body telling me something. And I took that as a sign that I have to move like forward in a different way if I want to I guess like be a better human being.
Yeah, I have heard that, and I think that the most difficult part with that is when you want to, you give more in your life and give more to others. You're still living in the pandemic, so you're still kind of limited because you can't interact and maybe do everything that you want
Mhm.
to do. So, what have you? What did you decide to do after you decided to quit practicing law?
Well, actually, we just have to do our best in like the circumstances given. So after well, quit practicing law, I obviously done quite a bit of reflection and really believe that speaking and really sharing storytelling is something that is innate in me, and I feel that that is something that I could contribute to others, hopefully to, to train people in how to be better communicators, to train people to find their voice, to train people to find their own stories so that everyone can, contribute to this world in a better way. And, it is through this that we all learn and we all grow. And, I believe that we all have some sort of like a shared humanity and we learn from each other this way.
Yes, I this is probably one of the things that I've learned about podcasting that I love is just really being able to share people's stories. I've always been intrigued by the story. It's not necessarily the accomplishment. It's like the journey there. And you know, did the cancer go into remission the first time you got it?
Hmm.
And then when you got it again, was it 2021?
Yes, it was last year, like mid-year. I was just going on my, usual checkups, and like, boom, it happened again. Honestly, I did not expect it, but once you're, kind of, thrown a curveball, you just have to deal with it. So, yeah, I've, gone over the treatment, surgery, and I would say that I'm like at least like this year 2022 I'm recovering. And like, yeah, it's just like it's just part of the journey. Like step by step I become better, and then at the same time I learn so much about myself, and really have to like take a different perspective to many things instead of being like too goal focused, too like in the first, I would say, in the more beginning parts of my life, I feel like, oh, I have to kind of run in a straight line. I have to do this. I have to do that. But right now, I just feel like, life just throws, whatever, anything at you. And it's more important that you learn how to cope with things rather than like being a control maniac.
That is true. And how's it going now? Because I think last year when I was trying to schedule you, you were still going through the whole. Well, I don't know if
Yes.
it was chemo or exactly what, but
Yeah. Yeah. I had to go through, surgeries, chemo, and yeah, all that. And definitely that like it's a blow to the energy level. So I finished that like late last year, and as I say, 2022 is really a time for me to step by step recover, and just so that I can start running again. At least, like, for example, I have been running these days, even though COVID means that we can't do many things. We can't really socialize in real life. We can't have meals out, but at least I still have running and the trails.
and the trails remain open in Hong Kong.
The trails remain open in Hong Kong, yes, but it's also subject to the mosque rules. So that's something. It's not ideal, but I rather have that than to have the trails closed, because they are closing the beaches right now. So um, yeah, at least the
Oh,
trails, because people are quite spaced away from each other. But in beaches there are more people that are kind of huddled in a group. So that's why, yeah, beaches are just, I think, yeah, they're just banned yesterday, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, over here when I'm in Los Angeles, so when it first started, so many people took up running because all the gyms are closed, and then the beaches start to get closed because people weren't listening, and then people started not separating themselves in the trail, so they closed the trails, and I was like, no, I was so heartbroken because I was like, that running was the only thing and working out at home that I had left. I couldn't do jujitsu or anything else but running, and the
Yeah.
trails is like, it's to me, it's so special. It's I think regardless of what religion, some of the places that I've seen, the beauty, I'm like, you know, there's a greater
Being
person, God being that creates this beauty. I think you saw some of my pictures of Sedona, and I love Sedona, and that's
lovely. Like, I wish to visit Sedona one day, definitely. I've seen your photos, are like, oh my God, that's like amazing. I mean, that's the thing about like what I really enjoy about the trails and trail running is that, like, at least pre-pandemic, I had the chance, which I am very blessed, to go to different parts of the world and really like take in all that wonderful scenery. And it's just that feeling. I feel like, yes, at that moment, you believe that there's God or some higher being that created this. It's very sacred.
Yes, and that's exactly how I feel about Sedona. I think that's why I keep going back, and hopefully by next year or sooner than that in Hong Kong, you guys are able to travel, and then you can visit Sedona in February for the race. That's when they have it every year.
Okay, I must mark that down in my diary.
And so, yeah, last time we didn't really get to talk too much about, the places you've got to run, which is like Peru and Canary Islands and Japan and Korea. Uh,
Yeah.
but, just, for the people listening in, you didn't even like running. Your friends would invite you to go hiking and you were like, I don't really want to go.
Exactly. Yeah, I was like, I think when I was, well, in the earlier years of practicing as a lawyer, so I was, my life is basically very normal, like going to work, and then after work, you'll probably knock down like some drinks with friends, and then weekends are also more brunches and drinks with friends. So, or shopping, shopping could be like the official sport in Hong Kong because, we have lots of shopping malls. And yeah, actually, you get to walk a lot when you're shopping in a large shopping mall. But yeah, whenever my friends ask me, like, "Hey, Megan, you want to go hiking?" and I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't know whether I can do it. Like, I'll just like make some like half-assed excuse, like, okay, I'm not gonna go. But after a while, I mean, working as a lawyer is stressful, and maybe that's like the, how do you say it, the first sign that something that it's like not really me, or like law is not really for me. But obviously I tend to suppress that feeling, and maybe like, okay, maybe becoming a good lawyer is something that I should be doing at that moment, so I just keep working hard. And it's to a certain point where I just feel like somehow like both physically and mentally drained. I wouldn't say like it's only a mental thing, but sometimes you get days where you just wake up and you feel like, oh yeah, no, I just don't really want to do anything at all. So I guess it's like a physical and mental thing. So it's to a point where, okay, one day my friends asked me to go on a hike again, and I have to really like commend them for asking me numerous times and get turned down like so many times. But in the end, I'm like, okay, fine, I will come. I'll just see what it is. If I don't like it, I can always like, go home and not do it again next time. So, yes, I went on my first hike like that.
And, how was your first hike? Because I've taken plenty of people hiking, and
Uh-huh.
there's one girl that I took, and she complained the whole time we were hiking. But then when we were done, she's like, "Oh, I loved it. I want to go back." And it was like, now she's a major hiker, but during that time, she was still kicking and screaming like she wasn't enjoying the moment.
I think that's a very typical story, and I relate with that quite a bit because the first hike that I have been is to the Line Rock peak, like the hill in Hong Kong. So Line Rock is actually one of the most iconic Hong Kong symbols. Like, is kind of shaped like a lion, and because like back in the day they say that Hong Kongers, we live under Lion Rock, so we have that Lion Rock spirit. We work hard for things, so that's the old Hong Kong, and so it's an iconic symbol. So it's a hill. I can send you more pictures later on. And that particular hill, so you got to walk up a slope to get to like a certain level, and then to get to the top of the hill, you have to walk a lot of stairs. And at that time, I was the one who was kicking and screaming when I was going up the stairs. I'm like, when is all the stairs going to end? It's just a lot of stairs, and like I have to say I like to complain, or at least I would complain, and then I got to the top, and I was like looking around the view of the entire city in front of me, like right under me, the entire city, and I'm like, whew. This is actually a pretty awesome feeling. Everything looks like so tiny, and the view is definitely, even better than the view that you can have at like Ritz Carlton in Hong Kong. Ritz Carlton is a like a hotel in Hong Kong, but they're up in, I don't know, the 100th floor or something on a like a really really tall building in Hong Kong. So I'm like, wow, that view is like, it's even better than that. So that's how I got like hooked onto trails and like, well, maybe I should do more of this again. But that was still hiking, and it's sort of like a little bit hiking, a little bit walking there. And my friends were like, do you want to join like a trail race and like as a team together, three of us? And I was like, what on earth is a trail race? And then they were saying, well, you just got to walk like 26 kilometers in, like in that particular race they were asking me to do. So you just have to walk 26 kilometers. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I can do it, but if you guys are with me, then okay, let's do it. And then, my friends went with me on this trail race. So yes, we, walked, run somehow for this 26 kilometers. And yeah, that's where I really started. Maybe trail running is something that I could look into. And, the rest is history, like, more racing. And then when I'm like after even, how do you say it, like running in different races in Hong Kong, you feel like going abroad and really exploring what the world has to offer.
And that race, was it a relay race or you guys got to do it all together?
We do it all together.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's why I felt that, well, maybe that's something that we could do to get that I could do, because my friends are with me as a support. So it made me feel more at ease at that point.
And then from there, you got to go to the Canary Islands, Japan, and Korea,
Yeah.
and Peru as well. Uh,
Yes.
so, out of those places, where would you say is your best location for the race that you really loved? I looked at some of the places, and man, the Canary Islands really look beautiful. I've never been, but that
It's
looks
really
really
beautiful.
nice.
It's really beautiful. I mean, all the places I've been for running, because apart from running races, I also had the chance of going to like trail running camps, like in Thailand and in like mainland China. And I just think that there is just like a special thing about each different places. So to ask me which is like the must go or the top place, I honestly I cannot tell you, because every place has such a different thing that it offers, and I feel that in every experience it would just like give me a different perspective, and I really like just enjoy like really marveling at the nature. And of course, once you're able to do a race abroad, and it's also like a great chance for me to travel around in the countries or regions, and it's something that I really really enjoy.
Yeah, to me, the problem with going to a new place is I want to explore it. So,
Mhm.
for example, I never been to San Francisco, and I did the San Francisco Marathon, and everything there's hilly. So when I went there, I walked like for 2 days before the race, and then by the time the race comes, you're just more tired from sightseeing than what you should be doing,
You
relaxing,
do
and
sightseeing after the race.
yeah, not enough time.
That's my experience, and like my tip to everyone. It's like, do your sightseeing after the race. Yes, you might be tired after a race, especially for me, I ran like ultras, so it might take like a half a day or a day for me to feel more awake. But after that, I can really enjoy the sightseeing and really enjoy everything much more than having like something about the race being on the like in your mind all the time.
And then traveling so much, especially to other countries. How's like the water? I know that's important when you're running, especially long distances, and some places are known for not having clean water. Are the people there um, like typical races over here? There's always someone support giving you water, or do you have to take your own water there?
Well, all my races are at least supported with water. So I ran the half like MDS, the Marathon de Sable, desert running, the half in both Peru and Canary Islands. So for that, it's like almost everything self-supported except that they provided like drinking water. So I didn't have to worry about like any water issues for any racing or any trail running that I do around the world so far. So that's something to be happy about.
And in Peru and other places, like unless you speak Japanese and Korean, was a communication difficult?
I actually do not speak Japanese or Korean, nor do I speak Spanish in Peru and like Spanish in Canary Islands in Peru. But yeah, I know a little bit basic, Spanish words, so I can kind of understand a little bit, but is definitely like not fluent or anything. Um, I wouldn't say communications are that difficult, but maybe because I like traveling and I'll just find some way to communicate, even though I can't speak the local language. And the thing about trail racing is that it's a very international community as well. So you go there for a race. Usually, the race organizers would speak English. The folks that go there to run would speak English. So I think English still remains to be like a language to communicate with other people around the world.
Oh, that's interesting. I was, I always watch different people, and a lot of people won't even know who this is, but he's got like 200 million followers on YouTube, Mr. Beast. And he was saying that only 10% of people speak English, so that most people can't even see his YouTube videos. So he started doing them in different languages. So I'm like, oh, I always thought English was more kind of like spoken everywhere. But he kind of made me think about that.
So it's definitely not spoken everywhere, but I guess, people who would travel to trail run maybe would be able to speak English, I would say.
And which one did you do in Japan? Uh,
Well, have you heard about the ultra trail Mount Fuji?
yes.
So I didn't do like the full ultra trail Mount Fuji. I did the like shorter distance one, which is called the STY. They canceled that race like some years ago because I was there in 2018. They canceled the race, like a shorter distance, like a sister race of UTMF. But I think they have something new, like a shorter distance now. But back then, I had to run 92 kilometers, sort of like three quarters around Mount Fuji. So that was how the route was. Like you get to see Mount Fuji from the distance. So I believe that's like, absolutely amazing. And during that particular race, like the time that I just kind of I felt so connected to nature is that watching sort of like the sunrise from this side and Mount Fuji on the other side. So
Hmm.
like, and I was kind of running downhill because that's almost towards the end of the race. And I like at that moment, it just feels really amazing. And I would say that they also have pretty excellent, volunteer support in the UTMF races because everyone would be like the volunteers. They would be ringing the cowbell, and then they even have the someone was on the saxophone, like playing the Rocky theme at that
Oh, wow.
particular time when I was like watching the sunrise, and I'm like, wow, it like the feeling. I can't describe it in words.
Rocky's my favorite movie. So to hear that they're playing it on a saxophone and that it's like international, it makes it even more interesting to me. That I didn't know Rocky was like well known around the world.
Oh, it is definitely well known, and it was just amazing to be in that moment. You hear the music, you see what's in front of you, and the sun's kind of like coming up and shining at you, and then you're just like almost finished with the race. Just have to keep on going for like a couple kilometers more. Yeah, it was just like amazing. And the thing about that particular race was that because of protecting the trails, they do not allow the use of poles, and that
Hmm.
was actually a challenge for me because back then I used to use like poles on doing ultra running. So I'm not sure whether you use poles when you're doing like
I
ultra.
don't, but I see a bunch of people who do.
Yeah. So that was like another thing that I have to learn. And well, okay, even if I don't use poles, I can still um, complete this race in one piece. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with how everything had turned out, even though it's definitely like a challenge from the beginning. Because that's the thing about racing abroad is that you have really no idea how the trails and everything look. So there's no like um, there's no recce's. Unlike racing in Hong Kong, we recce the route and then we know what's going to happen where. So we can be more mentally prepared for it. And that's something that's a challenge when you go on racing abroad, is that you just can't really visualize how the whole thing would go.
Yeah, that's why I do like YouTube because there's a lot of runners who put races out there, and I actually started doing that. I have a GoPro, and I haven't put all the video out, but I probably recorded at least 20 different marathons so that people
Wow.
can get an idea of how the terrain is or the road and what you'll see and experience in the marathon. And over here, one of the reasons why I wanted to invite you back is because over here it's Women's History Month, and so
Oh, wow.
I wanted to invite you on here. And do you guys celebrate anything like that in Hong Kong?
No, we don't. So that's why. I mean, I know that there is like a Women's History Month in the U.S., but I really don't know, when exactly and how the history evolved. So yeah, we don't really have like something that is really dedicated to women here, and yeah, that I know of.
Okay. Well, do you have any women like athletically that inspired you, or you know, I guess your friends that kept asking you over and over when you turned them down, but was there like any like maybe sports stars or anybody that you could say, oh,
Well,
something intrigued you?
not really. I think for me, my journey is like quite personal. Like it's more like the environment that I eventually found myself in was supportive to for me to grow as a trail runner. So as I say in the beginning, it's really like a few friends who dragged me to trails, and when I started running regularly, you get to just meet so many different people, and everyone has their own story. Everyone has things that would inspire me in different ways. So I wouldn't really necessarily need to look up to anyone in particular, or there's any like yeah person that I look towards to, because I think I really learn from different people. And that's it. Everyone can be the hero in their own story. So that's something that I really hope to bring the message across, is that find your the story that you want to live in, and just live a life that's heroic as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but I guess here, and it just depends on where you're looking at it. But a lot of it has to do with the women's rights and how they weren't allowed to do a lot of things. Like over here, the most iconic marathon is Boston Marathon. It's the
Yeah.
oldest in the United States, and women were not allowed to run it. And the first woman who did it, she kind of had to hide in the start, and
Yeah.
then actually I don't think she finished it. And then the second one who did it, the race director tried to like pull her off the course, and it became an iconic picture. And
Mhm.
then after that, like more women, and now I think more women run marathons than men. So it's like, that's why I was asking, like, has it always been where women could run marathons or races over there?
Well,
That
because for me, definitely, I've only been running for the like past years. It's definitely not like a very long time. So as far as I know, like well, I mean, also a lot of women do participate in running here, and I think especially in the recent few years, it's definitely more women. And obviously, in like I'm not sure whether you've heard about like in ultra running, like there is still sort of like a gap between like how many men and women. I think the gap is closing, but yes, there is still a gap. In marathon running, I think it's definitely much closer now. Like it's definitely not just males who are running marathons.
In ultra running, it seems that women seem to win a lot of the races because, they maybe it's because they can deal with certain type of pain. That's why they give birth, but they seem to be kicking butt, especially
Yes,
like the longer ones. Like over here, they have 240-mile races, 200 miles, and the women are the ones who seem to be winning those.
and I think it's really, yeah, it's really amazing to see all of that, and I believe it's like after a certain point, I mean the physical, yes, you have to be obviously physically fit to run a race, but I think after a certain point, it really all boils down to what's in your head, and that really like determines whether you would fail or succeed. And I think it's all in the head, and that's why I am personally, well, trained as a sports mental coach, so I know a little bit of sports psychology. I try to also apply that, in my own practice, because I feel like having the mental toughness and how to deal with your mind is, I think, the next thing that we have to tackle on top of being physically fit.
Yes, and that's one thing that people will train, themselves physically, and they'll eat healthy. But the mental, a lot of people don't train um,
Mhm.
that mental part, and it definitely needs to be trained. And
Yes.
that's actually a perfect segue because besides running, what other types of workouts, and maybe you're limited to, your recovery right now, but I know you like to do breath work, and are you still doing the bowl meditation?
Yeah. Actually, after the whole, you know, cancer chapter in my life, I really, obviously, when you're in recovery, you don't have as much strength or anything to go out to run ultras anymore, obviously. So I dialed that down. And um, actually, even during my recovery, I was, walking if I'm feeling up to it. So I still walk regularly during my recovery, and then I also use breath work, as you mentioned, yoga, and also the singing bowl meditation, because that's something that would like, for example, yoga would really like help me work on my alignment and my like mobility and flexibility. Because, for example, cancer survivors, for me, I was like a breast cancer survivor. I had issues in pulling my arm up straight like this
Hmm.
when I finished when I was done with my surgery. But right now, as you can see, I can pull it straight back up, and that's really like that takes work, like just stretching and really like small incremental steps you do day by day, rather than doing this huge workout or anything. So that's something that I like. That's workout is has been quite different for me post cancer, but it also allows me to discover more what's within. Like it's not really all about like going all out and running for hours or days at a time, but sometimes you just have to kind of dig in, and you need to learn to live with yourself, instead of just like being too focused on the surroundings.
Yes, and I like the sound bowl meditations and yoga as well. And in Sedona, they actually will take you if you want. You can like sign up and take a see the sunrise on top of a peak, and they do yoga with the sound meditation. So it's like the perfect place for. I go there except during. I didn't go there 2021 because the race was canceled, but
Mhm.
I usually go there twice a year. And for me, it's really more about just kind of going there and getting back in touch with nature and I'll take pictures, but I'm not really on my phone. I'm
Mhm.
just really just appreciating the whole nature and kind of realigning myself just with me. That's
That's
really what
really
I enjoy about it. And then
it's
mixing all those things together is it makes it even more enjoyable.
Yeah, that sounds like a perfect thing to do, like yoga, sunrise, and meditation. And I really believe that, especially now, with COVID and everything happening around the world, I think it's really important that we find ways to how to get ourselves out of all this negativity and trying to like really realign and be focused on what positive changes that we each individually could do rather than just complaining all the time that things are going crazy out there. Yes, it is crazy, so what can we do on a individual level, on our self level?
And then over here, as you can see, I'm rocking the St. Patrick's Day. Do you guys celebrate that in Hong Kong?
Unfortunately, no. So
No.
it's been a pretty usual day for me. I mean, yeah.
So you've never had a green beer with a glitter in it?
No, I'd like to have some. Sounds good.
I mean, I've had the green beer. It's just food coloring. But yesterday, I went running with a group, and people were buying green beer, and they put glitter in it. I'm like, that. I'm not even sure if that's good for you. And then
Rank glitter though, or is it like some edible glitter? Yeah.
I'm not sure. I took a sip and I stuck. I just got a regular beer, but I was like, now they're putting glitter in the green beer, so I'm not even sure that's healthy for you.
Oh, once in a while you just have to treat yourself, but in usual times, even for me, I do watch like what I eat, especially after the whole cancer thing. It's like I'm even more focused in sort of tweaking little aspects of my life to try to stay healthy.
So, am I wrong to say running is like your favorite activity
I would say running on the trails.
on the
I
trails?
on how do you say it, the promenade very often these days, especially because it's close to home, and I live like quite close to the seaside, so it's nice, but it's not the like first thing that I enjoy. The first thing that I enjoy is really being on the trails, like really out in the middle of nowhere. So that's yeah.
And then what do you like to do like besides the running? Is it the yoga or any other type of activity? I know you had to do a lot of like rehabilitation, so that's a different type of workout. But you know, besides that, what do you typically like to do
I would say it's like yoga, and like if I'm feeling say a little bit better in the summer, then I hope to maybe do a little bit of water sports, things like stand-up paddleboarding or just hanging around by the water, because in Hong Kong it's really hot in the summer, so I just have to find active ways to have fun, but still to cool down. Or even I do like quite a bit of stream hiking when you talk about summer. So I hope that by summer rolling around, and I'll be, well enough to do more of these like fun stuff again.
And when you, so I've done stream hiking once. I did it in Zion National Park, and I can't remember the name of the actual trail, but you're pretty much in water, and it can go from a little bit above your ankles all the way to past my waist in the high
Yeah.
levels. But there is no actual um, trail for you to walk on besides the water. It's all like that.
Basically,
So
you're following a sort of like a stream, like you're kind
you're
of
in the
following
stream, yeah.
you're
There,
in the stream, and then there's just like rocks, boulders, and whatnot everywhere. So you just kind of have to scramble the whole way, possibly. So it really depends. Yes, as you said, sometimes your ankles will be soaked. Sometimes you're kind of like in waist deep in water. It happens, and I think it's fun in the summer though, because I just need to cool down.
It was, but I didn't realize I needed special shoes for that. Regular tennis shoes did not help me at all, and I would definitely recommend a trekking pole, at least for Zion National Park. That is it that rocky over there, or you need special shoes as well?
I actually just use my like trail running shoes, so I didn't really use anything special. I just have wearing gloves, so in case if I scramble over things, at least my hands are protected against the rough edges. So that's how I usually do these stream hikes, and yeah, it's something still in the trail, but at least in the summer, it's much better than just being on the trails because it's just way too hot in summer. And yeah, I think I mentioned to you before that the trails in Hong Kong are, you know, quite amazing. So in case of folks around the world think that Hong Kong is only like a place with tall buildings, like and only urban areas and cities, think again. We have like one of the UNESCO geoparks in Hong Kong as well because we have these special volcanic rocks that are hexagonal. So that's another place that I really love to visit. Uh, well, I mean year round, but in the summer I'll just even jump off like the jump into the ocean and swim around like these islands and places where they have these like hexagonal rocks.
Yeah, no, you definitely opened my eyes to Hong Kong. From the movies, and I just thought it was pretty much an urban place. But the pictures that I've seen from you makes me realize, and I love exploring, so it's on my radar. I remember the place in Utah. It's called the Narrows, and the Narrows is like you're in pretty much walking in water, but the mountains kind of go all the way above, and then you can see on top. But even though in the summertime, you know, I guess rain could come at
Mhm.
any time. And so if the rain comes, you got to get out of there.
Yeah.
And you can't really go fast because there's rocks everywhere and you're walking in water. So I guess that's the dangerous part. But I really enjoyed it. I would like to go back to finish it because I only got like halfway because I didn't have the proper equipment.
Hmm. Well, we always learn from our experience, and I really hope that, like, yeah, if traveling and all that allows, you should finish that route.
Oh, yes, yes. And so I know you're still kind of looking forward to getting back to races. And then with everything still going on in Hong Kong as far as the lockdowns, it gives you more time to just be ready. But is there anything that you are looking forward to or kind of have in the radar coming up?
I can tell you that not really, because racing abroad, I will have to wait until like the travel restrictions in Hong Kong are taken out. Because right now, if for example I go abroad to a race or anything, even if I can fly out, when I come back in, I will have to be quarantined in a facility or a hotel for a few weeks, and that's something that I would not like to do because obviously being stuck in a small hotel room or a facility for 3 weeks would do major damages to physical and mental health. Yes,
Hmm.
you might say that I could roll out a yoga mat and do yoga, but it's just being stuck in a small confined area I know will not sit well for me. So I'll just have to wait until the travel restrictions are over. And as for local races, again, it really also depends on what's going on with the policies and everything. I i don't want to look so far in the future. I just want to focus on what I can do right now, is to really try to get myself in a good space for recovery. I mean, I'm trying to run regularly in the um, promenade seaside, so at least I would have my exercise and hopefully build my endurance back bit by bit at the moment. So yeah, unfortunately there's nothing really in the radar, and I just hope that this would change soon.
And then one of the pictures that you shared and I put up on the Instagram, you have the bowl with you, and it looks like you're in the mountain. Do you take that with you?
That was actually beachside, and I felt like that was I took that photo when I was actually recovering. Like it was still during well, actually not even recovering. I was maybe even during my treatment. Yeah, I think it was during my treatment. I was just out in normal like a nice trail and seaside. kind of place, and then like yeah, my friend helped me carry the singing bowl, but we thought it was kind of cool to like have the singing bowls at the water side. So obviously, I would not carry my singing bowl to the trails all the time, but I guess once in a while, it's a good addition.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just because of what I've experienced that some people do it, it's enjoyable. Like out in nature, you would think they even do it in a cave in Sedona. They call it the shaman's cave, and they also do sound meditation in the cave, so you get like a different sound because it's within the cave.
Oh, okay. That's definitely inspiring. So if I do come across any caves in Hong Kong, maybe I should bring my singing bowl there next.
And I wanted to say thank you so much for coming back on. As I mentioned, there is one previous episode with you, but it's only on Fireside. So anyone listening in, if you want to hear it, you can hear your audio really good. But mine, I think I just got this microphone and I didn't know how to use it, so you can't even hear me. Um, but thank you so much for coming back on. I appreciate it, and I hope next time you come on, uh, all the restrictions will be lifted, and you can be actually telling me about what races or where you're going, because now it's been some time since you've been on, and over here things are appearing better, as far as like a little bit of freedom and restrictions, and I was hoping that when I talked to you it would be like that, but I actually read it, like I said, an article today about Hong Kong and what's going on. So I wish you to stay safe and your family and everybody else over there, and hopefully things get better over there for you guys.
Yes, thank you. I am definitely looking forward to the day that I can share with you about racing adventures.
But in the meantime, you got the right attitude. Keep it up, and just all you can do is like basically keep yourself in good shape. So when it comes around, you're ready to go, ready to do it.
I
So
think that just applies to many things, like, not just sports. You just have to keep yourself at a, good condition. So, whatever challenges are thrown at you, you'd be prepared.
yes, and want to say thank you once again for coming on, Megan. Really appreciate it. I look forward to having you on again, and we'll discuss how everything has changed over there for the better and what races you'll be doing. So thank you.
It's my
Happy
pleasure.
Friday to you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
It's my pleasure, Ray, and thanks so much for inviting. And yeah, you have a great, Friday ahead.
Thank you. Oh, and for everyone listening, tomorrow I will be having Erin, brutal Viking. I know her from jiu-jitsu, and she's just like went on a tear and just won quadruple championships. She's done some running. She was a competitive swimmer who turned into a monster in the jiu-jitsu world. So everyone, please join me tomorrow, Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific time zone. This is Athletic Definition, Coach Ray. Thank you, Megan, for joining me once again.
Thank you. Thank you.